made of?
Transporters! Over there!
There they are! Well, don't let them get away! We've been invaded!
Outsider! Kill them!
Alright, so a bit of a disclaimer here. I wanted to include this clip in particular just to show some of the challenges and the difficulties of this build, and it's some of the situations where it's not going to work super well for you. So don't get me wrong, I love the build, it's super fun, it's very effective, but it does have its limitations. Alright everybody, let's go ahead and jump into the build here. So I am running Archon for my primary, and you can kind of switch out these skills at will. It's really up to you what you'd like to do. Currently I'm running Havoc form just because the boss that I've been fighting, it helps me quite a bit. And then over here I'm running Elixir of Life. I really like the heal, especially when I'm running the Shield Heart, because I'm not getting the heal passively. And I also really like the revive ability that it has. It can be super, super useful. So I'm running Archon and Alchemist, actually, and you can really interchange any of these skills here that you would like to interchange. So, onto the armor, I'm running yet again some form of light armor, that's just, or excuse me, medium armor, that's just what I like to run, and then I've got the Shielded Heart. Now, I like running the Shielded Heart for this build, just because the Overshield's going to help you survive a lot of damage you wouldn't normally survive otherwise, and when you use this relic, you're going to get a pretty significant amount of mod power generation due to your Archon, and that's going to help you keep your Flamestorm up and your rockets going out. So onto the core of this build, and this is actually not a Firestorm build. Now, it does utilize Firestorm, but that's not the point of this build. The point of this build is actually the rockets and the grenade launcher. So, for our primary weapon, I'm using the Wrangler 1860, and that's just because I find it a reliable source of damage whenever I'm not using mods, which should basically be never, by the way. But when you're not, it'll do some decent single target damage, and I'm running the Harmonizer mod on it to increase the mod damage. Now, the melee weapon doesn't really matter for this build. You're not going to be using it too often. And here is the core of this build, the Meridian handgun, also known as the grenade launcher. And as you can see here, it's got Screamer as a secondary, which fires a high-powered rocket that deals up to 1392 damage within 3.75 meters. And as a result of Firestorm locking enemies in place and generating massive mod power, you're always going to have rockets available. So you're just going to be pumping those out the entire time. And I'm using the feedback mutator on there, which is giving this weapon's mod 20% more of single charge value as passive mod power over 10 seconds. You can also change that out. I've used Bandit as well to kind of return the standard grenades, but the idea is you're spamming the rockets, not the grenade. So, onto the amulet and rings. So for the amulet, I'm using the golden ribbon, which is increasing my mod damage by 25%, and activating a mod grants haste for 15 seconds. We'll skip over this one right now and go into these. These are the core for this build. The Firestone is incredible with the Firestorm, because inevitably, a lot of these bosses are going to be able to get out of your Firestorm lock. It just happens. So, having the increased fire resistance for yourself is going to be huge, so you don't die to your own Firestorm. Down here, I've got the Shard Banded Ring, which increases your mod damage by 12%. Yet again, we're pumping mod damage. That's the whole point of this build. We're pumping mod damage, we're pumping the rocket damage, and we're using the Firestorm to hold enemies in place to pump out the rockets. And then the Stone of Malevolence for the final one. The elemental damage generates 15% additional mod power, just for that rocket spam. And then this is the only ring that I kind of sub in and out. You can use the Blasting Cap ring to get the increased explosive damage. There's a lot of options here. It's really up to you. Play around, figure out what you like best. This is so far what I'm liking the best. I'm not sold on it. There may be a better option in here somewhere, so feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think. And then for the traits, obviously I've got Flashcaster and Potency as a result of my Alchemist and Archon. And then I've got Fortify for the increased armor effectiveness, Kinship. Now this is also incredibly important so that you're not killing yourself or your friends with this build, because yes, you can actually use this build with friends as long as you use it smart. So that's going to reduce your friendly fire damage dealt and received by 80%. Vigor, obviously, to keep myself alive. Spirit for the mod power generation. Amplitude for the increased AoE size. Now I know there's probably a lot of people saying don't do this with Firestorm because it's dangerous. If you're running the additional fire resistance and you've got the Shielded Heart and you're running Alchemist, it doesn't matter. Increase that AoE size, pull those mobs in there, take them out. Shade Skin, this is my elemental damage resistance. I think this is super helpful with this build as well, so I'm not accidentally killing myself. And then I personally really like Siphoner for the last trait here. It's completely up to you. You don't have to use Siphoner. You could use something like Bark Skin, but this is just what I prefer to run. So, that's it for the build overview. Hopefully you guys find this helpful. Hopefully you enjoy the build. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.